Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So as everybody probably knows by now, YouTuber Kevin Samuels recently passed away, and he was only 57 years old according to news reports. So this was a shock. Everybody was stunned to hear this news, and a lot of us did not believe it when we first heard the news. But he has in fact passed away. And I just want to send my condolences to his family, and may he rest in peace. So for this video, I want to talk about his viewpoints. I want to talk about his legacy. And I also want to talk about the reactions to his passing. So when I was on TikTok, I noticed that there are a few videos from Black women basically celebrating his death. People are making fun of his death. And the very first video that I saw where somebody was making mockery of his death featured this young Black woman, and she was playing this music saying, "I'm still living though." So she started off with an image of him and a negative quote that he had about Black women. And then she played this song, "I'm Still Living Though," showing her face, basically making fun of the fact that he's dead and she's still alive. And I did a video talking about these types of reactions. And in response, I received a lot of comments from Black women basically celebrating his death. And so I just want to share my thoughts about that. First of all, I think that by doing that, you are basically doing Kevin Samuels' work for him. A lot of his material was about negative stereotypes of Black women. And by making these kind of cold, heartless, callous types of celebrations online, you are basically perpetuating all these negative stereotypes about Black women. And it's just sad and pathetic. And it shows your character, your true nature. Because you can disagree with somebody's opinions without being disrespectful. You can disagree with somebody's opinions without losing your very integrity in the process. And that's what these women have done. They have basically thrown their integrity in the trash based on their emotional reaction to this man's passing. And the thing is, a lot of these women that are so upset and, at Kevin Samuels and actually celebrating his death, these are probably the types of women Kevin Samuels was talking about. These women are literally the hit dogs hollering because a lot of what he said hit home for them because it described them and their poor conduct and their poor decision making, unfortunately. So, yeah, I just think that it's just in poor taste, it's classless, it's very tacky for people to celebrate somebody's death. Now, I understand, somebody feeling the need not to honor somebody. That's one thing. You can make a decision not to honor somebody because of the things that they said or the things that they did. That's quite different from making mockery of somebody passing away. The fact of the matter is, all of us are mortal human beings. We all will pass away. None of us know when we're going to pass away. None of us are promised tomorrow. So you may be joking and laughing about him today, but it could be your loved one that dies tomorrow. You could, in fact, die tomorrow while you're laughing about somebody else passing away. So yeah, I just had to, say that off the top. We can disagree without being very disrespectful towards one another. So I want to talk about the positive aspects of Kevin Samuels' legacy and the negative aspects of his legacy. And as far as I'm concerned, the negatives outweigh the positives. But in terms of the positives, one of the things that he did was he basically held women accountable for their poor decisions and poor actions and all that kind of stuff. And he also gave them a dose of reality. Some women are very delusional in their viewpoints, And he threw the water of reality on a lot of these women to wake them up from their fantasies and, made them face reality. The other thing about him is just his success, the success that he was able to achieve as a social media personality. That's something that's commendable, whether or not, I agree with his content or not. The fact of the matter is he managed to be successful. He managed to make a name for himself. He managed to get nationwide attention and acclaim. And the mere fact that people are talking about his passing says that he made some kind of contribution. In the mind of many, that was a negative contribution. In the minds of some, it was a positive contribution. But it was a contribution nonetheless. So those are the positive aspects of his content and his work. And those things are commendable. He was a successful person. Now let's go into the negatives. And again, as I said, it's just unfortunate that the negatives outweigh the positives when it comes to him, at least from my perspective. One of the biggest problems that I had with his whole outlook was that he basically took the position that a woman's value is based on her ability to attract and to keep a high value man. And basically he advised that women basically cater to men in order to appease men and to keep men and all that kind of stuff. He basically recommended that women pander to men. And basically, I just think that that's a ridiculous outlook. I think that outlook is misogynistic. Women have their own intrinsic value. Their value is not determined solely by their ability to attract and keep a high value man. And that brings me to another point. One of the other problems that I had with his content was the fact that he focused primarily on trying to, teach women about how to get a high value man and all this and that. The fact of the matter is, by his definition of a high value man, very few black men are in that category. And being high value shouldn't be about how much money someone has or how many material items they collect and all that kind of stuff, or what kind of financial resources they have. Your value should be based on your character. Your value should be based on your values and your integrity and your intelligence and your personality. That's what value should be based on, not based solely on the material things. So I think that was another problem with his content, this overemphasis on how to get a quote unquote, high value man. The other thing is, the disparaging remarks that he would make. He would basically question women's marketplace value as if they are commodities instead of human beings. He would basically disparage women for being older, for being overweight, or, having a certain weight. He would disparage women for being mothers, for being single mothers. That was a basis for him to basically put down women. Women would regularly contact him on his show. They would come onto his show, and he would constantly talk about how they're not all this and all that, basically. They would say, they rate themselves one thing, and then he would berate them and tell them that they are, a lower number and all that kind of stuff. Just utter disrespect of women. So that's one of the main problems that I had with him. He was very rude towards women. He often would basically argue with women, cut them off, and hang up on them and all that kind of stuff. Very disrespectful content. And the sad thing is that a lot of his fans were entertained by the misogyny. They were entertained by watching him put down women. And I think that a lot of that comes from their bad experiences. A lot of these young men, or even older men for that matter, have had bad experiences with women. They are brokenhearted. They are butthurt, to use another word. So they feel like they're basically getting revenge by watching him, vicariously by watching him disrespect women. And I think that that is pathetic. And I think that it's sad that people have that kind of view. The other thing that he said that was really troubling is, recently he said that women that are 35 and over are basically leftover women, and that there's something wrong with them. And I just think that that's very disrespectful, and sad that he would make such statements. And it's these types of statements that have generated a lot of the hostility that women have, and why I do not condone these women celebrating this man's death for the reasons that I previously stated. If you treat people poorly, you can't, while you're alive, if you treat people poorly while you're alive, if you're disrespectful to people while you are alive, you cannot expect those same people to treat you with respect when you pass away. So that's one thing. One of the most troubling interviews that I saw him do is when he raised the question of a situation where a child goes to their mother and accuses either the husband or the boyfriend of basically engaging in child molestation against them. And Kevin Samuels basically was saying that a woman shouldn't believe the child in that kind of situation. The woman shouldn't automatically believe the child in that situation. And I think that that is some very sick kind of advice, and it places children in jeopardy. And, I just think that it is irresponsible for somebody to make that kind of advice. So that is another problem that I had with him. Another thing is this question of qualifications. Now, on the internet, people talk about any and everything. People are able to reinvent themselves and present themselves as experts, even though they have no technical qualifications for what they're purporting to be experts of. And that's one of the greatest problems with him. Like, he's not a professional family counselor or relationship counselor, but yet he's putting out all this advice about relationships. And then also when you look at the fact that he was divorced twice, that makes it hard for people to really take him seriously as some kind of relationship advisor. This man constantly talks about marriages and what needs to be done for someone to be successfully married and all that kind of stuff. But he's not married, you know what I'm saying? So, and he's been divorced twice. So that's another issue that I have, with respect to Kevin Samuels, just his qualifications. So the bottom line is, while he's done some positive things, and I'm not going to pretend like this man is some bad or evil person, that he has no positive attributes. I pointed out the positives, but there are also the negatives, which outweigh the positives, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts about Kevin Samuels. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts about him? What do you think about his legacy? What do you think about all those women on TikTok in particular that have basically rejoiced at the fact that this man has passed away? So please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. Peace and blessings. Have a great weekend, and happy Mother's Day to all the queens out there with children.